So, as you can see in this diagram, our this image is made up of different puzzles. So, similarly, our body is made up of different types of cells integrated together to perform specific functions. For example, our gut has different cells that digest our food. Our liver has different type of cells that help metabolize the medicines, any kinds of waste in our body. So each of the cells in our body has a designated function. So each of the cells are each of the type of the cells are integrated into a specific type of group or a group of tissues or organs that perform a specific function as a whole. So let's begin with the lecture. So, introduction to the cells. What are cells basically? What are cells to us? What are cells to our body? What are cells to life? So, each type of cell is basic fundamental unit of life, which means any kind of living organism is based on cell. Whenever either it's a microorganism, whether it's a plant, whether it's a fungus, whether it's a human being, whether it's an animal, any type of human being on this planet is made up of cells. Of course, there is one exception, that is a bit subcellular type, which we call viruses. Viruses are not considered cells, but bacteria and any other type of microorganisms are considered as cells. So any kind of life starts with cell, then it multiplies if to many cells if that organism is multicellular or have multi or many cells, either that organism is consist on one cell, that is bacteria. So, cell is defined as smallest basic unit of life that is responsible for all life processes. So, speaking of a human body, we all are made up of cells, different type of cells. So, each type of cells signifies the function going on in our body. So, together, all different types of cells are sustaining our life in our body. There are blood cells in our circulation that are delivering oxygen, and other type of blood cells that are fighting infection. So this is how our circulatory system is working. There are neurons in our brain that are constantly working to make our body function differently, to control the organs of our body. So this is how it works. Each type of cell works, and then overall all the systems work, and then if all the systems work together in the right way, so that uh, whole process makes up our a healthy life or health or a health of our body. So there is cellular diversity in our body. And, as I said, there are different type of cells, so there is a skilled workforce. Cells come in different types, specializing in a unique function. As I said, different types of cells are present, and each types of cells are organized in the form of tissues or group of cells that perform specific function assigned to them by genetics or by nature. So there are if they work together simultaneously, so as a team, so they carry out the whole vital functions as a whole. So understanding of the cells is very important to understand any kind of living organism, especially human biology. And we can only understand if we know about the anatomy of the human body. So moving to the next, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. There are two types of cells. One is prokaryote and other one is eukaryote. Basically, this division is on the basis of the nucleus of the cells. In eukaryotes, they have proper nucleus, and in prokaryotes, they have uh, a type of or a thread of DNA simply suspended in their cytoplasm. So basically, this one is sorry. This one is eukaryotic cell and this one is prokaryotic cell. Basically, prokaryotes are all the different types of bacteria that are classified in this category, and plants, fungi, and human beings and all the animals are categorized under eukaryotes. So basically, these are two different types of cells. One is this one and the other one is this one. So the covering around the cell is called cell membrane, and the fluid inside is called cytoplasm, and there are these different tiny things are the organelles, and this one is the nucleus, which is also called the brain of the cell. It controls all the activities in one cell, and this one is bacterial or prokaryotic cell, and this is its membrane, the yellowish orange one, and the black one is its DNA, or its I said nucleus like thing, which means this DNA controls the whole activities of this cell and the cellular division, and each and every function of this cell is controlled by the nucleus. So we're going to talk about the detail how they are different. So eukaryotes may be unicellular and multicellular. Unicellular means one cell based, on multi means multiple cells, includes plants, animals, fungi, and protists, all made up of eukaryotic cells. And yes. Uh, and then there are prokaryotes, which are mainly bacteria. In this diagram, we can see these are the similarities between two types of cells, and these are the characteristic differences in each of the category. So what is common in both have ribosomes, both have DNA, both have cytoplasm, both have cell membrane, some has flagella. Flagella are this long thread type of thing which helps them to mobilize, especially bacteria. It is present in bacteria. In eukaryotes, they have proper nucleus, they have organelles, these small things. They have cytoskeleton. It's like a similar type of protein uh, made a network of fibers that supports the cell shape. Just like in our body, we have bones that maintain our body shape. So they can be multicellular or unicellular. They have cilia. So some eukaryotic cells have cilia, such as the cells in our respiratory system. They do have cilia in the human reproductive system. Sperms have motility based on the cilia. So cilia, what are cilia? Cilia are like small thread-like structures, just like these, but these are the pilus or pili of the bacteria. They look similar to this one, but present in eukaryotic cells only. So in prokaryotes, what are the distinctive features? They don't have a proper nucleus like this one. They are simple and small cells, and they don't have any complex organelles. They are very abundant. They are mostly unicellular, and all of the prokaryotes are bacteria. So there are next we are going to talk about the different type of eukaryotic cells. What we have learned so far, there are two basic broad classification of cells on the basis of nucleus, which are prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotes are mainly bacteria, and now we're going to talk about the eukaryotic cells, or the type of organisms present that contain eukaryotic cells. So number one is animals, plants, fungi, and protists. So as you know, animals, including humans as well, they contain eukaryotic cells. Plants also have eukaryotic cells. Animals, plants, and fungi are multicellular, but fungi has some species that are unicellular as well. And then protists. Protists are not fungi and neither bacteria. They are present in water bodies, are called protozoa, slime molds, and some algae. So these are the animals or these are the organisms that contain uh, proper nucleus, and they have eukaryotic cells. They can be multicellular or they can be unicellular, and depending on the species and the category we're talking about, there is a whole lot of different species in each category, and varying from simple to complex organisms. So cells in human body. So that was in the previous slides we discussed about cells in general. Now we're going to talk about different types of cells in human body. So what do a different what kind of different cells are present in human body? Are stem cells, there are bone cells, there are blood cells, there are muscle cells, there are fat cells, skin cells, nerve cells, endothelial cells, and germ cells. So these are different types of cells present in each of our system. Stem cells are these are kind of multipotent cells, and they are in simple words, they are multi-talented. They can be transformed into any kind of specialized cells. These are basic cells, or like as I say in common word, default cells. They don't have any specific features. They can multiply into any specialized cells depending on where they are present. So mostly stem cells are present in our bone marrow, and they are constantly producing our blood cells. So these are versatile cells, can transform into specialized cells, aiding into tissue repair, organ transplantation, and disease treatment. There, speaking of organ transplantation and disease treatment, there are different stem cells present in our liver, and if our liver gets damaged, it can repair itself. Damage to some extent, which is repairable. If it's too damaged, or like 80 or 90%, that then it's the only treatment is transplant. But if it's viable and it's a part of it is like not functioning properly, or disease or excised due to any tumor, so it can regenerate itself. So that quality is due to stem cells. Next is bone cells. There are different type of bone cells in our body. For starters, let's talk about osteoblasts, osteocytes, and osteoclasts. So osteoblasts are the mainly precursor cells that make our bones, that deposit minerals in our bones and produced like cells that sustain in the bones. So basically, osteoblasts are the precursor cells that gets trapped when they become mature, when they start mineralizing in the bone. Each osteoblast turned into osteocytes. So osteocytes are the working bone cells that assist in bone formation and calcium balancing. So blasts are precursor to osteocytes. Then there are osteoclasts responsible for bone resorption and healing. Bone Basically, the bone mineralization is a kind of dynamic process in which bone wear and tear goes on as needed, or depending on the calcium levels in our body. So basically, osteoblasts make up the bone, and osteoclasts dissolve the bone. What happens during malnutrition? These osteoclasts activity becomes more, and they starts dissolving or resorption of the bone more, and turns the and releases all the minerals present in the bone into the blood. And osteoblasts are active throughout our life, but they are like well managed. Whenever there is a fracture in the bone, first comes osteoblast to rescue it. They form the bone at the fracture site when the bone heals, and then osteoclast remove the extra bone uh, which is formed during the healing process, and lines the bones into shape. So this is all about the bone cells. Next, we're going to talk about the blood cells. You don't have to memorize all of it, but you have to like at least you have to retain the idea of different types of cells, and type of cells present in our body and how do they function. Like at least you have to be like aware of things, how they work in our body. Next are the blood cells. There are different type of blood cells present. RBCs, red blood cells, also called erythrocytes. You don't have to remember this name. You can call them red blood cells, white blood cells, and then platelets. First are red blood cells. They transport oxygen throughout the body as we breathe. Air goes into our lungs, and our lungs extract oxygen from the air, and then they send the oxygen which was extracted from the air to the blood vessels, and then those blood vessels carry blood to the heart, and heart redistributes all the blood to the body. This way oxygen gets distributed all our to body through our blood. So what which blood cells are mainly involved? That are red blood cells. Next are white blood cells. These are two types, granulocytes and agranulocytes. So there is a whole different variety of them depending on the type of infections they are involved, and the function and the type of function. So basically, these are neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, monocytes, and lymphocytes. So these are the cells that are involved in different type of immunity against all the infections, and either they are bacterial, or either they are viral, or they are due to parasite infestation. So in bacterial infections, neutrophils are raised. In eosinophils are raised mostly in allergies due to parasites, and basophils are already present in very less amount, and usually they are always active somehow and different involved in different type of immune functions. Then comes the monocytes. These are kind of big cells. They just simply engulf bacteria, whatever they come across. They are roaming around in the blood as well as they are present in the tissues. Whenever they see any kind of bacteria or anything like that, so they simply eat them, like they engulf them, and they just disintegrate the bacteria and digest them. So what happens, they also disintegrate our dead cells of the body. So this is how our blood cells, whatever the cell dies in our body, whatever the cell gets damaged beyond the repair, so monocytes, these cells, gets rid of them and releases the recycled nutrients into our body again. Lymphocytes are the main in sorry main cells of the immunity. There are various types of lymphocytes. First, let me just tell you about the B lymphocytes and the T lymphocytes. So B lymphocytes are the cells. They become active when you have any infection, and they leave immunity forever. Some live forever and some live for a few years. So whenever that pathogen or bacteria attacks again, your body is already prepared to fight them. So B lymphocytes are mainly engineered for this role, and there are T lymphocytes that get active whenever you have viral infection, such as HIV infection. In HIV, there is certain type of T cells. I will not go into the details because it's out of scope of this lecture. So mainly T cells become active in case of viral infections. Then there is one last type of cells, or I would say platelets. These are fragments of cells called megakaryocytes. They are important for the blood clotting. So whenever there is a bleeding, either from the wound or from the cut, from either from the outside of the body, from the skin, or from inside of your body, either in the form of your stomach or in any damage to your blood vessel. So platelets help form a mesh that traps blood, and ultimately it forms a clot on that side. So the side doesn't bleed anymore. There are muscle cells, which are skeletal muscle cells, cardiac muscle cells, and smooth muscle cells. So, skeletal muscle cells are the cells which we can voluntarily control, just like our muscles of arms, our tongue, our muscles of limbs, our respiratory muscles to some extent. So, whatever muscles are in our control, they are skeletal muscles mainly. So then there are cardiac muscles. They are present in the heart, and they help our heart to beat in rhythm. Then there are smooth muscle cells. They are found in organs like digestive tract, in your in your blood vessels, and there are certain other like uh, the ureter. that carries urine from the kidneys to the urinary bladder. So these are different type of muscle cells that carry different specific functions. For example, skeletal muscles, as I said, they help in voluntary movement. All the different muscle cells in our body that we can control are skeletal muscle cells. Then cardiac muscle cells that are present only in heart. Then there are smooth muscle cells that are found in organs like digestive tract. And then next type of cells are fat cells, adipocytes. You might already aware of this. So they store energy and regulate metabolism. Whenever you eat extra calories more than your body needs, they get stored in the form of fat in the fat cell. So basically, let me check if I can draw their structure. So this is cell membrane. This will be their nucleus on the side, and there is a whole big chunk of vacuole present in the fat cells. So whenever you eat extra calories more than your body needs, or if you are eating too much carbohydrates, your extra calories get deposited in the form of fat in this vacuole thing or in this fat cell or adipocyte. So what is this? This one is nucleus, and this big thing is fat molecule or simple fat deposited into the cytoplasm of the fat cell, and this side boundary is cell membrane, this one. Okay, so next is skin cells. Epidermal cells form the protective outer layer of the skin. All the cells that are present on our skin are called skin cells or epidermal cells. They continue to shed because after a certain period they get dead and they just shed from our skin. So our skin stays uh, flexible and well nourished and good in texture because skin cells keep on going under wear and tear, and they all the dead cells just fall off, and then new cells comes. Then next category is nerve cells, neurons. They are present in our nervous system, in our brain, in our spinal cord, in our all the nerves throughout the body. They transmit electric signals to form the communication because this is the main electricity wiring of our body. I'm saying metaphorically, uh, because as the neurons fire or transmit electrically, our heart beats with this its rhythm. Our respiratory system works under its control. Our skeletal muscles are even under this control, even though they are voluntarily, but our brain conveys the signal to them to move whenever we think of moving them. Okay. So next is endothelial cells. As I said, these are epidermal cells. They are outer lining. They form outer lining of our body. Endothelial cells, they form internal lining of our body around the organs and the blood vessels. Next are germ cells or sex cells, or they are different in each of the sex. They are present as sperm in male and eggs in females. They are important for reproduction, as you all know. So these were different types of cells. One more thing, all the cells we discussed previously, like stem cells, bone cells, blood cells, muscle cells, fat cells, skin cells, nerve cells, endothelial cells, these different types of cells are uh, diploid cells, means which they are proper complete cells. Meanwhile, the germ cells are haploid cells, which means they contain half chromosomes, each type of them. Whenever they fuse, they become whole. So eggs contain 23 chromosomes and sperm in male contain 23 chromosomes. Whenever they fuse and form a zygote, they form a whole cell which contain 46 chromosomes. So above all the cells are complete and diploid. Meanwhile, the germ cells are haploid. So there are different type of cell organelles. that are present within the cell, as I told, cell membrane, nucleus, and there are tiny things that are present in the cytoplasm of the cell. So speaking of the plasma membrane, it is also called cell membrane or cytoplasmic membrane. It is composed of lipid and proteins, and it forms the outer lining of the cells. So it selectively allows to different gases, nutrients, and minerals to pass through, and it doesn't allow some of them to not pass. So also there is one more thing. Cell membrane provides a shape to the cell and protects all the inner things or inner environment of the cell, because if the cell membrane stays intact, the cell is intact. Once it's damaged beyond repair, the cell dies automatically. And cell membrane also protects from the pathogens, from the bacteria or viruses, unless they already have some other mechanism to puncture the cell. So the next is nucleus. Nucleus contains DNA and controls all the activities, and nucleus is also uh, surrounded by a double membrane, just like this one. So nucleus or DNA is extra protected, and it is very important for the cell growth, for the cell division, and the regulation of cell activities. Next is mitochondria. I need to hide this. Antonella, can you please hide this bar from this area?
Which one?
This bar which I am seeing about screen sharing. Can you help me with that?
I think it's not possible,
Okay, okay. So
but it seems
so
like the text is showing. I think it's just the bar that is showing on your screen.
Yeah, I think so. So we can continue like this for this slide. So the next organelle is mitochondria, which is mainly or usually called as the powerhouse of the cell, which provides ATP. ATP in simple words are the coins for the expense. ATP is a form of energy that our cells uses, just like we eat food and we get energy from it. Similarly, ATP is energy currency of the cell. So who provides it? This structure, this tiny one, mitochondria provides ATP. The next one is endoplasmic reticulum. Uh, it has ribosomes attached. This curved things is endoplasmic reticulum. It is involved in protein synthesis and lipid synthesis and detoxification. So basically, how nature has designed us is each cell portrays our body. Because in our body all the functions of are carried out uh, as a whole, and similarly all the functions are also carried out in each cell, just like as a whole body. So next is Golgi apparatus. This one is Golgi apparatus, which is kind of like handles the logistics part of the cell. It packages different types of cell products like proteins and exports outside. They form like they in this kind of vesicles they just pack things, and they fuse with the cell membrane, and cell membrane just pushes them outside. So they can contain proteins, they can contain enzymes, they can contain excretory substances that are no longer useful. Also they can contain different metabolites or byproducts of metabolism. So next are ribosomes. Ribosomes are tiny little these. I think they are not well marketed in this. So ribosomes are tiny structures that are attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, and they are involved in the protein synthesis directly. So what happens if ribosomes get malfunctioned? These cells present as a whole in liver. For example, they are producing albumin, a type of protein in our body. And if they cells, their ribosomes get malfunction or they stop working, these group of cells of the liver will stop producing that specific protein in our blood, which I said as example albumin. And if our body does not produce enough albumin, our blood gets thin, and it just gets popping out of blood vessels. So each type of cell and each type of organelle is very vital for the human body to function normally. Next are the lysosomes. Lysosomes are more like a stomach of the cell. Anything our cell that engulfs or eats, or if there is anything that dies in the cell, these lysosomes get rid of them. So, or digest them into tiny particles and then just expel them or recycle them. So, lysosome is basically a digestive organelle of the cell. Then next is cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton is not well demarcated also. These black tiny threads, if you can appreciate this one and this one, these are the different, I would say, skeleton of cell made up of protein, and they maintain the structural support of the cell and maintain the cell shape, and also facilitate cell movement if there is any need of that. So what is hierarchy of different type of cells in our body? Let's start with this diagram. First, there are simple chemicals like nutrients, or I would say simple elements like carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen, and different type of just elements. And they combine to form different type of molecules, and then they organize to form cells. And each different combinations of cells form tissues, and then different tissues combine to form organs that uh, carry out similar function, and different organs simultaneously integrate to form organ systems, and then different organ systems combine or integrate to form a whole organism or a whole being. So let's start with the atoms. Atoms basically in our human body or any animal, there are basically three main elements: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, as well as there is nitrogen also. So these are the basic elements that uh, form our body, base of our body, base of our cell. So these elements combined in different ways, in different configurations to form macromolecules, and then macromolecules are magically combined by the nature, and they become cells. We cannot manufacture a cell on our own, but we can definitely differentiate how cells are made, and we can study cells or their configuration, how cells are made. So this is this is what scientists assume so far, that the cells are made up of basically these elements. So cells are the smallest independent living units in human body, as we already discussed them in very good detail. Then comes the tissues. Tissues are group of similar cells working together to form specific functions. So basically, tissues are a sheet of cells or a group of cells that are present together. Then there are organs. Organs are identifiable structures composed of two or more tissue types. Each organ performs specific physiological function. So tissues are, we cannot differentiate tissue uh, on the basis of structure, although apparently they might look same, but functionally they might be secreting different type of hormones. They might be doing different functions. Apparently they might look similar. So what organ is? Organ is identifiable. We can see a simple spleen, a simple kidney, a simple liver, or any specific organ. So let's talk about liver. So liver is an organ, and it contains different type of tissues of cells that perform different functions. For example, one of the function of the liver is to get rid of nitrogenous waste and convert them to urea, and then that urea goes to kidneys and get excreted as urine. So one is this is the function of the liver. Then another function of the liver is to secrete proteins or form proteins, just like albumin. And there are other functions of the liver, such as detoxification of metabolites or any drugs or any medicines you take, they wear off. For example, you take painkiller, after some hours, it just wears off. What happens is, after a certain period of time, either 20 hours, 24 hours, or 8 hours, liver detoxifies that medicine and excretes it. So you have to take the medicine again. So this is how a organ works. Next is organ system. These are groups of organs working together to perform specific functions. For example, digestive system, in which our stomach, it starts basically from our oral cavity, then comes our esophagus that delivers food from our oral cavity to stomach. Then there is intestine, small intestine, large intestine. Plus, there is also liver involved in digestion as well, because liver also secretes bile salts that help in digestion of fatty foods. Then there is respiratory system, which contains lungs and trachea and different all the uh, vasculature around lungs that is important for the respiration. So what lung alone is, it's an organ. When combined with other similar functioning organs, we call it respiratory system. So stomach is a different organ, intestine is different organ, but they are working together, so we are calling it a digestive system. Then there is circulatory system. It contains heart and blood vessels. Then if these different organ systems combine, they form a whole human being. And uh, for sustaining life, uh, at least uh, respiratory system, cardiovascular system, and nervous system should be functioning well. Because in some cases, if you heard of brain dead people, what happens in those is their brain is not functioning anymore, so they do not wake up from the coma. Their other organs are alive, other organ systems are alive. For example, their respiratory system is good and working. You put them on ventilator, so they are respiring through that. And their cardiovascular system is also functioning. So what happens in that person is their brain dead, they cannot wake from coma, but they are still alive. So for a human being to work properly, they should have all the important organ systems working simultaneously. So human organism, sorry, human is complex of all the organisms, all the animals on the earth so far. What basically it is under a group of primates in kingdom Animalia under classification. So what sets us apart from other primates, from chimpanzee and other different animals, is cognition, power of cognition. There is no animal on this planet, on this in this primate category, that have power of cognition, power of thinking. So human organism is the most complex level of organization. It is the most, I would say, uh, developed and advanced form of living so far. So our body comprises of multiple systems collaborating harmoniously to sustain life, maintain homeostasis, and allow us to thrive as living beings. So all we need is to have different organ systems working perfectly in synchronization to sustain a normal health or a good health. Then there are tissues. uh, Tissues should be discussed before the organs, but still there are different type of tissues that are present in our body. As I discussed before, different tissues forms organs, and this slide is must be misplaced and it should be before. But let's see, there are different type of tissues: macular tissue, epithelial tissue, nervous tissue, connective tissue. You can all guess what is present in muscular tissue. There are skeletal muscle cells, cardiac muscle cells, smooth muscle cells. So each type of cells form muscular tissue. Epithelial cells, there are different type of cells, squamous cells, cuboidal, columnar, transitional. So depending on the function and the location, they are named. For example, columnar cells are secretory cells. They are present in our digestive lining. Transitional cells are present in our urinary bladder lining. Next is nervous tissue. It consists of neurons. One is the main neurons that fire electric signals, and then there are supportive cells that are neuroglial cells that support and protect neurons. Then connective tissue. Connective tissue is basically any kind of tissue in our body that provides support, that connects our body within and protects. So there are loose connective tissue that holds organs in the place. Like there are fascias uh, uh, that I would say holds different organs whenever you are running or whenever you are like doing any activity, so the organs doesn't get misplaced from its own place. So this is the main function of connective tissue, such as loose and dense connective tissue form the tendon and ligaments of the muscles, so they get attached to the bones. Then there are adipose tissue, cartilage tissue that forms cushions in the joints. Uh, Whenever two bones meet at a joint, if there is cartilage is not present in that site, they would rub with each other and cause significant pain and disability. So whenever there is a joint, the bone caps are always lined with the cartilage in every joint. So what happens in the old age, this cartilage starts degenerating and the bones starts rubbing with each other, and that condition is called osteoarthritis, and it is a degenerative disease. It is very painful and it is very debilitating. So this is the importance of cartilage in the joints. Next is bone, it supports and protects. The next is blood. Blood is also connective tissue as it transports nutrients and oxygen and conveys extra waste to the relevant organs to just get rid of them. These are different. This is epithelial tissue. These look like this under microscope. This is nervous tissue. They look like this mesh of things. This is muscle tissue. They look like these straight fibers. And this is connective tissue, random threads of collagen protein. And in between, there are connective tissue cells present. So, what are organs? Or a group of two or more tissues assembled to perform a specialized physiological function that would form an organ. As I already discussed these things, stomach, heart, liver, lungs, they alone are organs. But if they are combined with the relevant structures, they would be called organ systems. So each organ performs specific tasks essential for overall health. Organs collaborate within organs to maintain homeostasis or to keep functioning well. So this is a very beautiful diagram I came across on the internet. These are different organ systems present in our body. This one is skeletal system. Only in this bones are shown. The next one is circulatory system in which blood vessels and the heart is shown. Then, in the next picture, this one there is respiratory system, and in this one, this is nervous system. This one is called lymphatic system. Lymphatic system is they are also different vessels in the body which collect extra fluid from our tissues and return very genuinely to the cardiovascular system. So what happens whenever there is excess fluid leakage in our tissues or in our body? So these green vessels called lymphatic vessels, they collect that fluid and they just simply give it over to the circulatory system to get rid of it. So whenever there is edema or collection of fluid in our body abnormally, these vessels are malfunctioning or not functioning properly. These lymphatic vessels and lymph nodes are also involved in the immunity, and this tiny organ shown is spleen, and this one is thymus. So this is where our lymphocytes get mature to form to fight against pathogens. Initially, when they are they are newly formed, they are immature. They they are transported here by blood, and then they become mature here by certain changes. Then this one is our digestive system. This is our renal system, renal system or urinary system, and this one would be, I don't know what it is. It is not clear which. The next one is muscular skeletal system, in which all the muscles of the skeletal muscles of the body are shown, and this yellow part is connective tissue, and the part where muscles are attached to the bones, they are called tendons. So this was about organ systems. So these are different organ systems we are going to talk about in the upcoming lectures one by one. First one is musculoskeletal system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, nervous system, digestive system, urinary system, endocrine system, lymphatic system, reproductive system, integumentary system. So it's not a difficult thing like to talk about the anatomy. It's about understanding how things work in our body, and we just name them uh, depending on their location and depending on their function. So what is the role of cell biology in anatomy? So as you guys have learned today about the cells, different tissues, different organ systems and their importance. So this is cell biology, that's all. So cell biology makes basis of anatomy. Anatomy is basically one of the medical sciences. Next is microscopic. So it means it means we have seen cells that are microscopic, and then we moved from a hierarchy of the cells to the tissues, and then organs and the organ systems, and the whole human being. So it is the micro to macro perspective from seeing things on micro level as well as to the seeing things on a macro level, integrated functioning of organisms or organ systems in an organism. So this was all about the functional understanding of the organs as well, how they unite and how they work, and how different type of tissues integrate to form organs. And clinical relevance of organ whenever there is a disease, there is definitely something wrong with either macro level or micro level. Speaking of macro level, either if tissue is malfunctioning, if there is a tumor or something, and then how we reach the diagnosis. Sometimes that is apparent, but sometimes we have to dig deep. In case of tumors, we go to the microscopic level, we take the biopsy from the tumor site, and we see under microscope, and we see the different tumor cells under the microscope. So when we confirm the presence of the tumor, we can of the cell biology of the tumor. Then we confirm the diagnosis, we plan our regimen according to it, and then we start the treatment. So that was it.